Welcome back to Table for Two, the podcast where faith, family, and real life meet around the table.
We're Jason and Nicole Barnett, and today we're talking about one of the most powerful influences in a child's life.
And no, it's not social media.
And it's not their teachers.
It's not even the church.
Although, those influences matter.
Yes, but today we're talking about the adults children watch every single day.
Because whether we realize it or not, or even want them to or not, children are watching everything we do.
And they are learning what love looks like from us.
And what forgiveness looks like.
What conflict looks like.
And for many children, they're learning what God looks like.
So pull up a chair and join us as we get started. This is Table for Two.
Through storms and swallowed our noise, church keys in hand, coffee and mugs, our lives held together by grace and a few hugs. They said she submits, we said we both do. It's not about ladders, it's me and you, serving the kingdom in aprons and jeans, laugh lines and calloused hands and holy routines. At this table for two, there's room for you. Pull up a chair, we'll tell the truth. From love and faith with the side of faith-filled talk.
Now, before we jump into today's conversation, let's start with a question.
And we would love to hear your answers and you can do that. Give us your answers on the Table for Two Facebook page. Is that what it's called? The Facebook page?
Yes. But today's question is, what is a phrase your parents used that you promised you would never say, but now comes out of your mouth very regularly?
Yeah, you know exactly the one.
The phrase that used to make your eyes roll as a kid.
And now suddenly you're saying it to your own child.
So what about you?
Well, mine's not so much a phrase, like a phrase I commonly heard because I was always getting hurt. Like when I learned to ride my bicycle, I remember we were living with my grandparents and my grandpa had just put his mailbox up. By that mean, like he had just put the post in, poured the concrete.
Yeah.
Got it stable enough to stand up, to remove the boards. And then they turned me loose. But my dad didn't believe in teaching me to ride a bike with training wheels. So he just turned me loose on two wheels. And, day one, I dented the mailbox with my face. Now, again, that's like one of my earliest memories. That was one of my earliest memories. So I don't know how old I was. I wasn't in kindergarten yet. So, but I do remember, oh, you're fine, suck it up, walk it off, you're good. The things we typically say to boys when they fall down.
Yeah.
You might say it to girls too, but I can't speak to the feminine experience. I can only speak to guys where we're supposed to be manly and not cry and suck it up and deal with things. But that being said, again, I didn't use this phrase with Ben. I kind of just applied it without ever saying it, though. So, one time when we were pastoring in Greensburg, Kentucky, they have a really nice park there. Several different playgrounds you can take to play your kid on. At least they used to. Don't know if they still do. But we were playing on the one that's kind of over in the middle of the ball diamonds, like a smaller equipment. Our kids were a little younger, so we felt more comfortable with that because if they fell, they
weren't going to fall and break their face. They were going to fall and get a couple bruises.
Yeah, and sure enough, that's what happened to Ben. And keep in mind, Ben's like 4, maybe 5. No, he was definitely 4 or 5. Because I can't remember if he was preschool or kindergarten, but it was one of those two. But he fell off the playground equipment, and he hurt his leg. Now, again, there's wood chips on the ground, so it wasn't...
He didn't, break anything. He didn't even sprain anything. He just landed hard on his knee.
Yeah. And so he gets up, he's crying. It's one of those situations as a parent, you can tell the kid's really fine. They're crying because either they're embarrassed or it scared them, or they're tired or they're hungry.
I think it was all 3 for him.
Yeah.
Or all 4.
Yeah, it could have been all 4 of those things. But anyway, he was crying. And so, again, I didn't look at him and say,
you're okay.
You're okay. You're fine. Walk it off. I just said, well, let's check and see how bad it hurts. So, Ben, to do that, why don't you walk from here to the fence and back? And that was a good 50 yards. And so he's kind of crying, but then he walks there's not even a limp or not even an act. He doesn't even put on a play act for me. He just walks like normal from where he fell off the playground to the fence and back, and he was just fine. But I remember thinking, man, that was kind of mean. So
yeah. Well, mine, I can't say I heard this a lot from my parents growing up, because whenever I asked a question, it was always a very firm yes or no. I could do that or I can't do that. Whenever I would ask my mom something, but I heard it a lot from my friends' parents, and it was, go ask your father. And I remember my friends and I all being very irritated with that question or with that response, because it was like, you know, you're a parent too. Can't you give me this answer? And I've kind of realized the reason why I do it is not because I can't make a decision on my own with the kids, but it's I want to make sure that Jason and I are on the same page.
Right.
And so that's usually me granting permission as long as it's okay with you,
Yes.
Jason. Like,
and same the other way around.
Yeah. So if they hear go ask your father, they know that all they have to do is convince dad. But the problem that they face is when he says, go ask your mother.
Yeah, and so sometimes they get caught in the circle.
But when we know that the other parent has given permission, then we're like, okay, yeah, we can do this.
And now let's say one of us does grant permission without the other one knowing it. The other one usually backs the other one up unless there's something unforeseen.
Yeah, like maybe we didn't communicate about, well, somebody's supposed to have a consequence for misbehavior, and you know, I've already told them that they can't go play at their friend's house or whatever, and then they go and ask dad.
Yeah.
Can I go play at my friend's house?
Yeah, usually if there's consequences involved and they do that, then there's more consequences involved later.
Yeah.
But anyway, also the downside is their parents are the pastors of the church, so if they do anything while we're up front, we see them. But we are pretty cool because we don't, we'll correct them minorly, but the real correction comes after the service is over because we don't want to embarrass them.
Yeah.
In front of the whole church. But anyway, we'd love to hear some of your answers to this question. You know, some examples of maybe things you have heard. Like my dad, we used to say to us, "You make a terrible window." And when he said that, he implied that we were standing in front of the TV and he couldn't see what he was watching.
I remember hearing
or maybe it was because I said so, or money doesn't grow on trees, or
were you born in a barn?
Were you raised in a barn.
I do say that a lot, but yeah. I embrace that one. I am not.
What was it for you, and how do you use it? We'd love to hear that in the comments. Nicole, you just got a text message. You might want to check it out.
The following segment is not based on any real-life events or happenings. The names are made up. Just like Who's on His Way, the characters and names are not real, but the points might be.
That sound bit always creeps me out, Jason. I'm just going to say it.
Do I creep you out?
Yes, you do. Okay, so just a friendly reminder again, even though that creepy voice said it already, this story is fictional. These characters are fictional. And the conversation is fictional, but the point is very real.
Yeah, it might be something that's very helpful.
Yeah. So here is today's quote unquote text message. And it says, "Hey Nicole, I think Sadie may have had her first big grown-up hypocrisy moment. And honestly, I'm not sure what to do with it. We went out to lunch after church with Linda and Frank on Sunday. Everything was fine until our waitress forgot a side dish and brought the wrong drink.
Oh, no.
Oh, poor waitress. It wasn't a huge deal. She looked young and honestly seemed overwhelmed. But Frank spent the rest of the meal complaining. He kept saying things like, nobody wants to work anymore, and this generation doesn't know responsibility. The waitress looked embarrassed every time she came to the table. On the drive home, Sadie was very quiet. She finally asked me why was Grandpa being so mean to the waitress. I told her I didn't think Grandpa was trying to be mean, but then she asked, but if I wasn't trying to be mean to Madison, why did everyone say I hurt her feelings? And honestly, I didn't know what to say. Now she's asking me questions about being right, being kind, and why adults don't always have to practice what they preach. Help.
All right, now if you're new to this segment and this doesn't make sense, you are missing part of the backstory. But stick around, the point I think will still make sense without the rest of it.
Yeah.
But I encourage you to go back and watch some previous episodes to get kind of caught up with where we are in the storyline. But I guess what stands out to you first about this? Like,
first off, whether Grandpa was trying to be mean or not, he was being mean.
Yeah, he's being rude.
That is a pet peeve of mine.
Same.
When I go to a restaurant and I see people mistreating the staff, I am angry on behalf of the staff.
Yes.
Like that person that's chewing out the staff, complaining about the staff, like they don't want to run into Ginger me. Like I will let them have it.
Yeah. Memorize this phrase in your and I think all Christians need to memorize it in their brains. But if you're listening to this, memorize this. Don't be singing Amazing Grace and then going out to the restaurant saying, my server is such a disgrace, right? Don't do it. Like, there is no point in your Christian walk with Jesus that it is okay to flip off the love switch.
Yeah.
Love is always turned on.
Yeah.
Especially when you're out to eat. I challenge you sometime when you go out to eat on Sunday, ask your waiter or waitress, ask your server,
has everyone been nice to you?
And you will see the cringe and the fear in their eyes.
Yeah.
And that will tell you, no. And who are the people that tend to eat out the most on Sundays?
Church people. And I'm going to tell you right now, actually, I think it was last year, or it might have been the year before, District Assembly, we went out, it was like the Sunday night of District Assembly, we went out and we went to Texas Roadhouse, I think it was, and I asked the hostess if people had been nice to her. And she burst into tears. And so I just asked her right then and there, can I pray for you right here? And so I prayed for her. She gave me permission, but I prayed for her. And then like, I made sure that we didn't just hand a tip to the waitress. We handed a tip to the hostess as well, because she needed it. But like, we don't have to be mean.
Yeah. So again, I get being frustrated. Like I can understand Frank, who I'm forever going to picture as Frank Burns now from MASH. But I picture Frank, I get his frustration. Like you order a side dish, you order a beverage, and you get the wrong one shows up. It happens. But mistakes happen.
Yeah.
The way the server already feels terrible. The staff already feels terrible. They don't need you to heap more guilt upon them in the situation.
Yeah. I mean, we've gone out to eat a few times in the last month. And I always get like the sirloin special, like, you know, the $13.99 sirloin. And all 3 times I have asked for medium. Because I don't like my meat well done. It's just not good.
I'm like Smeagol.
Yeah, go to him raw and wriggling.
Yes.
But me, like, I like it somewhat cooked, but I don't, like, medium is about the max. And all 3 times they've handed me a steak that's been well done. Like, cooked well done. And I'll cut into it and they'll ask me and I'll be like, well, it's more well done than I like. And then they'll be like, hey, well, do you want us to take it back? And I'm just like, no, it's okay. I will eat this. I'm not picky. I know it, you know, but I'm trying not to make more work. And yes, I'm telling them that I'm not happy necessarily with it, but I'm also not being a jerk about it. And I'm accepting it. And I'm just like, okay, you know, because they don't need to deal with that extra work. I mean, I'm not saying that you don't have to you shouldn't send stuff back. That's just my personal choice.
Yeah.
But if you do send it back, be kind.
Yes.
Stop being a jerk.
Yeah. You can fix things without being a jerk about it.
Yeah.
And now that's the other side of this too. Like, not only does Frank attack this one server, he then lumps
all of her generation
into one category and saying, well, no one wants to work and it's just not like it used to be. Well, maybe it's not like it used to be because they have to deal with jerks like you on a daily basis.
Right?
Like,
you can't pay me enough to deal with a Frank Burns.
Yeah, like they realize these are people most of the time they're either working a second job or just trying to find something to put money in their pocket, or they're a kid trying to get to their career, or they're a high school kid just trying to earn some money so they're not to help their families out, right? Us being jerks about it doesn't help them want to work in those jobs.
No.
So there's other ways to go about it. Yes, correct people when they make mistakes, but doing it in a loving way. And really, that's the big takeaway from this. Sadie
was a jerk to Madison. Rather than approaching her with a, let's talk about this, she accused Madison of following Satan and like allowing demons into her life.
Right. And so, but no, Sadie doesn't learn from her grandpa because grandpa imparts some words of wisdom to her. Like she honestly, the way this text reads to me, she doesn't hear really the words that grandpa is saying. She knows they're mean, right? Right. But the words are not what structure. It was his action. It was his attitude.
Yeah.
And she saw his actions and attitude, and it made her reflect on her own and realize that she was wrong.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is like, she saw somebody who was blatantly being mean, and his behavior was being excused, while her not trying to be mean was being accused. Well, she, even though she wasn't trying to be mean, was being accused of being mean.
Yeah.
And it wasn't letting her off the hook. So she's seeing this hypocrisy and is like, that's not okay.
Yeah.
Like, her grandpa was trying to be mean. He was generalizing. He was being a jerk. And mom makes an excuse for him. And I kind of feel like we tend to do the same thing.
Right.
We make excuses for the people who are old and elderly in our lives because we don't feel like we can correct them. Right. We don't feel like we can teach an old dog new tricks. And so they are just allowed to be jerks. And meanwhile, we're telling our kids, you can't behave like they are.
But guess who they're paying attention to the most?
Yeah.
The adults that are in their lives.
Yeah.
Now, yeah.
And so like that's why I will be very blunt.
Yeah.
I will call out the jerk behaviors when I see it. And yeah, some older adults may think I'm a little disrespectful in that area, but I don't want my kids growing up thinking that's okay.
Right. Now, grandpa may not be a terrible person, and we're not saying that he is. However, he may be a good, godly Christian man. Again, all we have to go off of what Amber is telling us about her father-in-law. Now, again, he might be a good Christian man if you know him in person. But again, from this text message, what we're getting is not that, right? What the Bible tells us, a tree will be known by its fruit.
Yeah, and if you're not producing good fruit, you're not a good tree.
Yeah. And that's where, too, kids pick up on that faster than we do as adults. Because, again, as adults, we get desensitized and grow numb to the bad fruit around us, right? We go nose deaf to it. But kids, their hearts are kind of...
They're raw and
ready. Raw and ready. And so when they encounter something like this, that the fruit is obviously reeking of hypocrisy, it's going to stand out to them. Now, again, in this case, it helps. Again, it's easier for us to point out the flaws of somebody else than it is to look at ourselves. But Sadie does that here. Like, it shows us her heart is vulnerable. She's a kid that's moldable, teachable, ready to grow, ready to be molded.
Which is better than most adults.
Yeah. And in this moment, she sees Grandpa again, who she probably respects and looks up to, does this mean thing. But it also opens her eyes to the fact that, maybe I should re-examine this situation that I've been a part of.
Yeah.
So I guess, Nicole, how would you text Amber back in response to this?
Well, I would actually use my mom as an example for this one. And it's a good example, which is rare. But this reminds me of when I was about Sadie's age. And I was overhearing a conversation between my mom and my grandpa. And my grandpa, I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. The man was racist. Like, if he saw a person of color on the TV, he would change the channel. If he saw a mixed couple, he would lash out for like 2 hours on a rant about why that was not okay. And there was one day I just had enough because, I've always been that kid that looks at the world, and when I see injustice, I'm not okay with it.
Right.
So I had had enough, and I went up to my room and just started bawling because my grandpa was at our house and he was saying all this hateful stuff about those people. And my mom ended up coming up through my room because my room was kind of a walk-through area into her room. She'd gone to go grab something, I don't know. But she saw me crying and she's like, what happened? And I told her what had upset me. And she's like, well, I don't think your grandpa means to hurt you. And I told her flat out, I was like, it doesn't matter if he meant to hurt me. That hurts me. Like, it hurts me because these people matter. And so she actually told me, tell him how his actions make you feel.
Yeah. And
so I had to sit down with my grandpa literally less than 3 minutes later. And I told him that I hated hearing him talk like that. And he made it every excuse in the book as to why it was okay for him to talk like that. And I was like, no, it's not okay. Because even if you really believe that, if you really love me, you're not going to talk like that around me. You're not going to behave like that around me because you are trying to convince me that this is okay. And anybody who loves somebody else is not going to convince them that mistreatment of others is okay.
Yeah.
And I told him, I was just like, if you really love me, you're going to stop talking like that. And so if I were Amber, I would tell her to have Sadie talk to her grandpa.
Yeah.
Now, if I were Amber, I'd also be in the room and make sure that grandpa doesn't go and be disrespectful back to Sadie. But usually especially in the grandpa position, especially if it's a good grandpa and they have a good relationship, he'll hear her. And at the very least, he will stop that behavior in front of her.
Yeah. He'll
be more cautious about who's watching.
And hopefully so, right? And if not, then Sadie's learned a lesson too of she's going to have to navigate this difficult situation with her grandparents from time to time.
And maybe she'll learn that maybe they're not the best people to give advice on how to treat others.
Exactly. Now, and kind of to your point too, I remember my brother was dealing with some lung issues growing up, and my grandpa smoked a lot. You know, he drove back and forth to work in Indianapolis, so he smoked in his car. Well, we went to go ride somewhere with my grandpa, and Travis refused to go because he couldn't breathe in the car. And I remember that my grandpa, I mean, you could visibly see it hurt him, but he also understood, and he didn't get mad and yell about it. He didn't try and defend himself. Next thing I know, he's at least trying to quit smoking in the car as much. And again, sometimes when kids say stuff to us like that,
it hurts.
But you know a kid's being honest. They're not doing it to just be mean.
Yeah. They're not being malicious.
Yeah. So they're doing it from a place of love.
Yeah.
All right. So that kind of brings us to our main topic today. We're talking about the people who influence our kids the most.
Yeah.
And again, we said in the opening, it's not social media. It's not
teachers. It's not the church people. It is. But I only have your kid, like, as a teacher, I only have your kid for 8 hours a day, if that.
Yeah, and then I have the kids on Thursday nights for an hour, maybe 2 hours on Sunday.
And then, Sunday it's an hour or two, depending on what class you're in that day. But for the rest of their lives, for the rest of their day, parents, they're with you.
Yeah, so they are learning how to navigate life long before they ever get formal instruction.
Yeah.
They are learning from the people that are in their homes.
Yeah.
They're watching how we as parents deal with stress. Do we get mad and frustrated and take it out on everybody when we're upset and stressed out? Or do we take a minute, collect ourselves?
Yeah.
And then try and figure it out?
Yeah, and they're watching parents who are saying they love each other. They're watching them interact and learn how to love each other.
Yeah.
Like, they learn how or what love looks like.
Yeah. Nicole and I, we are very, well, you get a glimpse of our relationship in these short little podcast episodes, but we very much pick on each other a lot.
We are very sarcastic.
Very sarcastic. We're always doing something to harass, Henri to harass the other one. And harass is the appropriate term.
But it's all in fun.
It's all in fun, and we know it's in fun.
And the thing is if I set a boundary or if Jason sets a boundary, it's okay, sorry, and we don't cross that anymore.
Yeah, and so that's our love language. And now, again, our kids, Jaden's 12, Ben's 10, and Emmy is 8. And they've picked that up from us.
They're extremely
sarcastic. Again, when you talk to the Barnett children, you better come with the guns loaded, mentally, because they're going to come at you rapid fire. But it's not because they're being disrespectful or rude or mean to you. It's because that's how they've learned to show love from us. And the other thing is they're very assertive, which Nicole and I were not. But they've gotten that because we've given them the confidence to be able to be themselves.
Yeah, actually, my favorite parenting moment. I actually got mad at Jaden for something. I don't even remember what it was. But as I was in the middle of scolding her, I apparently misspoke. And she stopped me as I was mid-sentence. And she's like, actually, Mom, that's not what happened at all.
And Nicole's really mad. And she's trying to stay mad. That's what makes it funny for me.
I paused and just started laughing. And then crying. Because my daughter felt confident enough in my love for her that she could stop me mid-anger sesh, correct me, and know that I wasn't going to be, horrible.
Yeah. And not only that, Jaden didn't defend herself as far as what she did wrong. She didn't try and buck the consequences of what she did wrong. But...
No, and she still had consequences. She was still in trouble. But the funny thing is immediately after that, she started razzing on me for misspeaking, and then I was razzing on her for being a little turd and interrupting her mom.
Yeah.
But it went from me being angry and frustrated about this situation that I don't remember to, yes, she acknowledged that she had a consequence. But the tone of the room shifted.
Yeah.
And I was just that's my favorite parenting moment. That's parenting moment.
The downside to the way our relationship works, because there's a drawback to this, because again, Nicole said it, we know the boundaries.
Yeah.
Our kids don't know those yet, right? No. And so we've had to help them. For instance, Ben has gone through a phase where he likes to joke that people are fat. All right, and we don't believe in body shaming anybody, and Ben's not trying to do that. He thinks it's funny, and that's what he does. He's a 10-year-old boy.
And it doesn't help that his friends at school all call each other fat and call everybody around them fat. So it's not even he's picking it up at school.
Yes, but I've had to sit down with him and I've had to talk with him. Ben, you understand? There are some people that they struggle with this, not because they're lazy, not because it's just because that's how their body's built. That's what they're dealing with in their life. And I also talked about how, because he was going around calling his sisters fat, and I said, Ben, you also understand, there's a lot of girls that deal with eating disorders and things like that because
boys do too.
Boys do too, but because they do that because that's what they think about themselves, and they end up hurting themselves, or even worse than that. And Ben was kind of upset by that. Now I didn't. That was a dad loving thing to do, and so I encouraged him to not talk to people that way.
And he has consequences when he does.
So my favorite consequence, it wasn't a consequence Nicole and I gave him. It was one Jaden, his older sister, gave him. And again, I tell this story. I've told it a lot recently in person if you've been around me. But one day I'm just standing, Nicole and I and the kids in a semicircle. And all of a sudden Jaden boils off and she just levels Ben with her fist.
She punches him and knocks him to the ground.
Yeah, now she didn't hit him in the face. She hit him in the stomach, right? And so she, and right in front of us too. And that's not normal Jaden behavior. And so I'm like, Jaden, what happened? And now Jaden wouldn't tell me. And Ben's both in pain and he's kind of laughing on the ground. And so I'm like, Ben, what happened? What did you say? And what did you do? And he goes, he doesn't tell on himself, and he doesn't tell on his sisters either. He just looks at me and says, Dad, I had that one coming. But later on, Jaden did tell me, hey, Ben called me fat. And so So that's a drawback. But again, where did they learn how to do this? They learned from watching Nicole and I. And again, this is a funny example, but again, think about your own relationship with your spouse or the people in your house. What are you putting on display? One of the hard things for me I grew up in a home where, again, guys, we didn't express emotion. We didn't talk about what hurt, what we were feeling.
Yeah.
We were taught to suppress it and shove it down. So guess what? I've struggled with most of my life.
Yeah. Sharing my
emotions. Like, Nicole will have to ask me a bunch of times to try and figure out what's wrong.
Yeah, you jerk.
And sometimes I'll tell her something, but that's not even the real thing, just because I want her to leave me alone. But she's giving me a death glare right now. I don't know if you can feel it through the podcast or not, but I can. I'm not even looking at her, and I can feel it right now. But anyway, it's one of those things I've had to learn to work through,
So you lied to me.
So again, what we do in our home, how we speak to each other, how we treat each other, those things are important.
Yeah. And now, don't negate the influence of teachers and church people and social media. Social media can be an amazing tool, but it can also be a detrimental one. But the thing is that's where you have to be very intentional about the influences you let in your child's life. I actually am a part of a Facebook group for people who are struggling with post-deconstruction. Let's just call it that. They've torn apart their faith. They've reconstructed what they're able to reconstruct, and some of them have never walked back to walking with Jesus, and some of them are. But there's this one person in the group that had talked about the fact that her kids are wanting to be involved at church. Like, one of their friends invited them to church, and she's like, I know the family. They're really great. I've seen a couple of their live stream services. It seems really good. But I'm nervous about my kids being involved because I know how toxic some church environments can be. And so I told her, I was just like, do your due diligence. Make sure that, like, if you, like, call the pastor, talk to any Sunday school teachers, talk to any children's church leaders, any youth leaders that are going to have influence in your child's life. And then I emphasized the fact that church, like what Jason and I try to do is we try to make sure that church is a safe place for every child who comes, especially the ones that do not come with a parent.
Yes, right.
And when they're without a parent, we become the parental protection at that point. Like, we are going to guard them from any negative comments from people who are judging them, any critique, anything. Like, we are protecting them, and we are keeping them safe at church and safe mentally as well. Because church should be a safe place. Yeah. And as long as church remains a safe place, it is a welcome place for exploration for a child.
That's right.
But if church becomes an unsafe place, you pull that kid out.
That's right.
It's okay. You can find another church. You can find another spiritual influence in your kid's life to help build them up instead of tear them down. Same with school. If your kid is in a school that is tearing them down and making them feel bad about yourself, pull them out. There's homeschooling options. There's cyber schooling options. There's private school options. There's online private school options if you want to try that. Like, Christian and secular. And do your due diligence and explore those options if your child is unsafe in their current teaching environment, their current learning environment. And this is going to be controversial, but if your child is not safe with your extended family, don't force them to be a part of it.
Yes.
Again, like I shared earlier, that that one example from my mom was like one of the few positive ones that I can give. My kids don't even call her grandma anymore because of some of the things that she said to them, she said about me, she said to me, things that they've heard from their Auntie Ivy, because like stories that she's told them, they don't trust her. And they don't feel safe with her. And so if they don't feel safe with their uncles or aunts or grandparents or like, it doesn't matter. Don't force them to be a part of a family that they're unsafe in.
Right. And I think that's a good place to segue to the next part of this conversation, because again, it's important. Like, now, Nicole and I, as youth leaders and as youth pastors, and now, children's pastor, on top of being a senior pastor, one of the things that we do is we probably over communicate with parents, but if your kid comes to kids group and they get in trouble for something, we're going to tell you.
Yeah.
And we're going to tell you how we handled it. For instance, a couple weeks ago, our boys came into our kids group that night, and it was the last week of school, or it was 2 weeks out from school being out, and they were just rowdy, and they all were ready to fight somebody, and they all ended up fighting one another. There was not like, no one was throwing hands or anything like that. There's no 5-knuckle shuffles going about. But it
got close.
But there was some intense moments, and so when we went to drop those boys off on the van, from the group, I did pull each parent aside and be like, or guardian, be like, look, I had to get on them for this tonight. Now keep in mind, they weren't alone in this, but they were participating in it. So again, I was trying to let them know that their kid's not a bad kid. It was just, this was not a good thing that happened.
And that's another thing. I have a pet peeve where people refer to children as bad children. When you give a child that identity, that's what you see them as. That's what they begin to see themselves as, and they will rise to that occasion of being the bad kid. But if you let them know that you do not believe that they are a bad kid and that we're just correcting this behavior for in this moment, more often than not, they will change direction.
That's right.
Now, stop calling kids bad kids.
And then again, this is a good place to segue, because again, now on the flip side of this, us being the adults at church, us being the adults in our school or wherever we're interacting with kids at. Again, I said this when we were talking about the text message segment today too, of there's no moment where you get to turn the love switch off. You are always representing Jesus. That's the cross we carry, right? As Christians, there is no days off. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to be perfect. It doesn't mean there are going to be moments we make mistakes, but we have to realize that when these kids come into our church or onto your school bus or into your classroom, you might be the only Jesus they ever get to see.
Yep.
You might be the only safe form of love they experience. So keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Show them what the love of Jesus looks like. And again, you don't always have to use the words. Sometimes it's just kindness, right? Yeah. You're not. Again, we think sharing Jesus is preaching at people. No, sharing Jesus is your actions and your attitude. And occasionally you use words too. Yeah. But most of the time it's actions and attitudes. So again, not every kid comes from a healthy home like that. So teachers, you matter. Coaches, you matter. Now again, one of my favorite coaches ever was my 8th grade football coach, and he was one of the hardest coaches I've ever had. Like, he would get on you, he might cuss at you a little bit. Coach Helms, if you listen to this, one, why are you listening to this? And two, I really appreciate it because you were a hard coach. But the one thing I always knew, no matter, he would get onto you for missing a block or missing a tackle. He'd punish the group when the group did something wrong. But one, he cared enough to explain, this is what you did wrong. Or he cared enough to try and make sure every kid got in, whether we were winning by 30 or losing by 30. And he didn't have to do things like that. Yeah. But he cared enough to try. And I noticed that. He also one time filled in for our general music teacher, which was our band director. And I learned more from him in that 30-minute class period than I did any other time that rest of the school year in music class.
Impressive. So
anyway. But again, Coaches matter. Children's workers at children's church, you matter. Don't go in with the bad attitude. You realize when I was working at a car dealership, the owner had an opportunity to go to Disney and see the behind the scenes of Disney. And I don't know if it's still this way, but when he went, he came back and he told us, you realize that like if the employees there are having a bad day, they send them home.
Yeah, and it's because they want every person that enters Disney to have the most magical experience that they could possibly have. Mm. And they're not going to have that if the cast members of Disney are grumpy. With the exception of maybe Grumpy.
That's right.
But that's an act. But if Cinderella is crying, it kind of ruins the moment.
Yeah.
And if Tarzan's throwing a temper tantrum, it kills it. Like, kids start to be a little bit upset because all of a sudden their heroes are upset. So I need to be upset.
Yeah. And so if Disney takes that seriously about their theme park, right? Yeah. Where you get to go see Mickey Mouse and Goofy and maybe ride Splash Mountain. If they care that much about that, we have the gift of everlasting life from Jesus Christ. We've been bestowed with grace that we don't deserve, we can never earn. And yet all he says is, follow me. And his commands are love God and love others. Mm-hmm. If that's what we have, that's the kind of joy we have, that's the kind of grace we have, that's so much greater. Right? And that's what we should be showing, especially to these kids who maybe don't get to witness that on a regular basis.
Yeah. And that's not to say that you have to fake a smile.
No.
Or
let them get away with murder.
But be gracious.
Right? Like
give yourself grace, give them grace.
Yeah.
Recognize that they're going to be messy. They're going to be rough around the edges. They don't know proper etiquette all the time unless somehow they ended up growing up in the royal family.
Yeah.
But you need to know that your actions speak louder than any I love you that you could possibly say.
Yeah.
If you're saying I love you, but then criticizing everything they do, criticizing their attire, criticizing their behavior, criticizing the fact that they don't look like they've showered, that's not love. And that kid doesn't feel loved.
Yeah. And you're assuming a lot, too. You're assuming they have soap and shampoo. You're assuming they have their water turned on and is working properly. You're making a lot of assumptions, and you're hurting a kid based on just what you see.
Yeah.
So again, I'm not saying those things are okay and that you have to be okay with them being smelly. Again, I had a youth leader growing up, and when she would regularly hose us down with Lysol as we were going home from an event to get in the church van. But she did it in a joking way where we didn't feel offended by it, right?
Yeah.
No.
Well, and it wasn't a isolated incident where it was like you were the one that she was targeting. It was, well, the whole group stinks, so we're all gonna get sprayed down.
Yeah.
But
I actually have two stories that kind of fit, like, again, where you can correct kids, but in a loving way.
Yeah.
And it's actually it's one with the same kid, and I'm gonna tell the second story that happened first because the kid got in trouble in the service, but it's partially my fault. Pastor Jason was filling in for Sunday school that day. And this is before I started writing the curriculum, right? So I was supposed to be using the curriculum provided. Well, I forgot it.
Uh-oh.
And so I was kind of winging it, and I decided to walk the kids through the worship service and why we do what we do and how we do it. And when I got to the worship part, I expressed to them that worship is us praising God as individuals. It doesn't matter what you sound like. It's
self-expression.
It's self-expression. And so, don't feel like
expressing love for God.
Yeah. And also, that doesn't mean, and worship doesn't mean you have to stand still. You can move a little bit if you feel like you need to, move around.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't preface this the correct way.
And the thing is one thing he's not mentioning is one of the little boys in the class has what I call the trifecta. Mm-hmm. He's got ADHD, which means he can't sit still. He's got ODD, which means he likes to push the boundaries. And then he has autism, which means he takes things super literally.
Yes. And so fast forward to the service, and I was sitting on the platform, right? And I could see this happening, but I was not in a position where I could intervene to save it. And Nicole was in the sound booth, so she one, didn't know I taught this lesson yet, and two, she couldn't get down there if she wanted to. And so this boy, he kind of slipped into the middle aisle. Now, the other thing is the church doesn't know I've taught this lesson. So we're all standing and singing, and all this gentleman in the back sees is this boy kind of
start goofing off.
Yeah, and now he wasn't goofing off, but he was in the center aisle. And I forgot to say, at least I forgot to get some parameters to this.
Although, I mean, to be fair, old-time Nazarenes wouldn't have had a problem.
Yeah, and they would have been in the aisle. Now, and the guy got onto him, but he wasn't mean about it. And actually, he felt bad after the service. And I told him, no, feel bad. That was, you added something to it that I didn't add to it. And he did it in a loving, gentle way. Was he firm? Absolutely he was. But did he do it in a way where I felt the kid felt threatened or upset? Absolutely not. Now the same kid, this is another event. He's very attached to Nicole.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to tell this part of the story.
I don't know which part you're talking about because I have a lot of stories with him.
So Nicole was preaching on this particular Sunday.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, yes, I was preaching on this particular Sunday, and we did have somebody leading children's church at the time, but this little boy, again, very attached to me, wasn't quite familiar with the person who was leading children's church at the time. And so he asked if he could stay upstairs and listen to me preach. And we never make kids go downstairs if they don't feel comfortable. So I said, yeah. And he wanted to sit in the front row and listen to me preach. But again, ADHD, kid can't sit still. So he's, he starts off in the pew and then he kind of starts laying on the pew. And then he's on the floor. And I love the way our church responded. Like nobody had any issue. But he discovered that there were hymnals on the shelf underneath the front pew. And so he grabs all the hymnals out and he starts building like you would with a card tower.
Yeah, but with hymnals.
And at first he's building them just in front of the front pew and not a big deal. But then he goes to the center of the aisle and he starts building there because there's more room. And then the adult Sunday school teacher, she's like, hey, you want to come sit with me? And he's like, no. Just like that. Just no. And she still talks about that. Like it was the funniest thing to her. And everybody just thought it was adorable. But nobody was like, I mean, yeah, he distracted a little bit, but like nobody allowed that to keep their focus off of the sermon, off of what God was doing. And honestly, to them, it was just testament to the fact that God was moving in our church.
Yeah. And so you have to understand too, teaching, again, especially kids that have never been in church before, teaching them how to sit still in church is a process. It's going to take a little while. In fact, one of the things that I do with our kids group, I haven't done it so much recently, but usually when I teach the kids group lesson on Thursday nights, we go into the sanctuary and they sit in the pews in the sanctuary as I teach. Now, I don't expect it, it's not the same level of quiet as it is on a Sunday morning.
They're very interactive.
And usually I'm doing some type of object lesson that gets them riled up too. But the point is they're learning to integrate and put their minds that this space is where we learn about Jesus. Mm-hmm. And so that's something I'm doing on my end to try and help them with that. But again, they're learning based on how we behave and interact with things. So again, on our end as adults in the church, especially, or classroom, school bus, wherever you are, when we encounter kids, we need to understand we don't know what their life is like behind the scenes. So do your best to be Jesus in that moment.
And don't assume that just because on the outside looking in, everything seems to be okay.
Yeah.
I heard a story this week that really made me upset because a youth leader insisted that somebody in her youth group shouldn't have the problems that they have because their life is not that bad.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know the trauma that somebody has gone through. You need to give grace.
Yeah. You do not get to define what's hard for somebody else.
No.
You don't. Because you're not them and you're not in their circumstances. And especially when it comes to kids. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of kids are dealing with things that we as adults don't know how to handle.
No.
Let alone their little minds and hearts.
Yeah.
So be gracious. And also be gracious with yourself. There's going to be times where you make mistakes. Be gracious, but also be repentant. When you make mistakes, be honest. I've had to go sit down with Ben a number of times and apologize for...
Yeah, and don't be afraid to apologize. Just because you're the adult doesn't make you infallible. Like, it's okay to apologize to your kids when you cross a line. It's okay to apologize to your kid when you've accidentally embarrassed them or when you've made them fearful or just apologize. You don't need to act like, well, I'm the authority, so I don't have to apologize. Like, that's another thing. Kids are watching that, and if you have that attitude, that's what they're going to learn. Mm-hmm. And they're going to be less willing to apologize because you won't.
That's right. So again, every adult is teaching children something. And every adult is teaching children something about God.
Yeah.
So the question isn't whether we're teaching, right? You might not be the Sunday school teacher, the kids group teacher, the children's pastor, but you are teaching kids something. So what are you teaching them?
Yeah, because children are always watching. Always.
You know, they will learn the things that we never intended to teach them.
So no matter what your role is, parent, grandparent, teacher, coach, anyone randomly spending time with children...
Remember that the small moments matter. Again, we get so focused on big moments, but those big moments aren't as big as if we're not paying attention to the small ones.
Yeah, the moments matter. The kind words matter. Hold on, I'm going to tell you a story real quick. The kind words matter. That little boy that we talked about, the one that sat in the front pew and made a card house out of hymnals. Mm-hmm. The reason we bonded is because on the way home, when I was dropping him off after one particular rough day at church, I sat him down and I was just like, hey, you're not a bad kid. God gave you the drive to push boundaries. And it is through pushing those boundaries that advances are made, that progress is made in this world. God has made you a world changer, and you are going to do great things. You are not a bad kid. My job is not to tell you you're a bad kid. My job is to make sure that you're safe while you're challenging.
That's right.
Kind words matter.
Yeah. Patience matters.
Grace matters.
Again, because for some children, you may be helping shape how they understand the love of God. And I'm just going to be honest too. My mom had me in church every Sunday that she possibly could. And if you've listened to the episode in season 1 about my backstory, you know, my dad was sick and passed away when I was 16, but he was sick for a number of years before that. The reason I stayed following Jesus and stayed in church, again, wasn't because my mom forced me to be there every Sunday. It's because the people of the church love me. Mm-hmm. Right? In some ways were different. You know, one offered me a job. You know, the pastors, they affirmed my call and gave me opportunities. Guys in the church took me fishing, you know, would show me how to work on things. And then there was people in the neighbor in the community, right? Like I got my truck stuck in the mud and he came and pulled me out. He laughed at me the whole time. I laughed at myself with him, but he showed up. Mm-hmm. You know, so again, the love that you show kids,
it helps them understand who God is.
And teaches them something important about life.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us for another episode of Table for Two.
And until next time,
grace and peace to you.
Through storms and swallowed our noise, church keys in hand, coffee in mugs, our lives held together by grace and a few hugs. They said she submits, we said we both do. It's not about ladders, it's me and you, serving the kingdom in aprons and jeans, laugh lines and calloused hands and holy routines. At this table for two, there's room for you. Pull up a chair, we'll tell the truth. Love and faith with the side of faith, real talk.
What conflict look like? I need to start that part. Do we gotta do the whole thing over again?
No.